Option 2, create a strong central government. Replace the Articles of Confederation with a new federal constitution that gives the central government more power. Power! According to this option, there are fatal flaws in the Articles that no amount of revising can fix. Now is the time to make things right. In 1783, General George Washington pessimistically said, "To suppose the general concerns of this country can be directed by 13 heads, or one head without competent powers, is a solecism, the bad effects for which every man who has had the practical knowledge to judge from, that I have, is fully convinced of, thou none perhaps has felt them in so forcible and distressing a degree." As we all know, a solecism is something that is not just poorly done, it is completely unacceptable. At first, diplomat John Jay was more optimistic, but gradually he began to share Washington's doubt. Last summer, in a letter to Thomas Jefferson, Jay wrote, "To be respectable abroad, it is necessary to be so at home, and that will not be the case until our public faith acquires more confidence and our government more strength." Washington's criticism came from his military experiences. Jay sprang from his diplomatic efforts with foreign relations. That they so agree is striking. This option priority is to create a central government that is more powerful than the current one. We need a Congress with the authority to safeguard our economic stability and physical security, both domestic and foreign. Rather than depending on the states as intermediaries, the citizens should relate directly to the national government.
Make a fresh start. During the Revolution, the aristocrat and the common man shared a bond. Economic conflicts were set aside. While there were fewer options for indentured white workers and free Africans, almost none for slaves, the war offered free white men opportunities to improve their social and economic status. Many new homesteads and towns were pioneered by some of these veterans and their families. Now things are different. Financial instability has led to the excessive loss of homes, farms, and businesses. This hurts communities and harms the economy. We need a stronger central government and a new federal union to resolve disputes before everyday people are driven to violence like that of Shays' Rebellion. This option holds that we need to abolish the Articles and create a new constitution that turns the Confederation into a true republic that is accountable to citizens. We need to create a new federal system that divides powers between a strong central government and several state governments. In this view, the new federal government should include a representative legislature that is proportional to each state's population, and the delegates should be chosen by popular vote. Also, in order to ensure that such representation is fairly distributed, the federal government needs to regularly conduct a census to track population and wealth. While slaves are not considered citizens, they do contribute to the wealth of each state, especially in the South. Therefore, these calling for a census have suggested that slaves be counted at 3/5 of their population.
Maintain stability. Consistency in governmental affairs will also enhance stability. The legislature should appoint an executor for a 7-year term. Having a single executive officer who is secure in his position will help us launch the new government, just as having one leader, General Washington, inspire the trust needed to launch a new nation. Rights of citizenship and voting vary from state to state, so we need to establish nationwide standards for rights, citizenship, and voting. Over the past decade, many states have expanded the landholding requirements for voting to include other forms of property, such as ships and other material assets. In large part, this was so veterans could vote. The landholding requirements had also unjustly penalized many hard-working merchants, sailors, and tradesmen. We are not a direct democracy, but have a tradition of representative government. Those who are drawn to the options are not calling for universal voting rights for the entire population. Most hold that any white man over the age of 21 who is not financially beholden to another person should have this right. This means he should not be in debt or indentured and must own land or other tangible assets outright. Proponents of this idea argue that people without financial independence are vulnerable to manipulation. For example, since voting is not private, an employer could demand the employees vote according to his directive. They say that since his wife is bound to follow her husband's lead, to give her the vote would really mean giving her husband 2 votes.
Strengthen our military. Our experiences with the British military have made many weary of standing armies, yet a strong defense is the best protection against foreign and domestic aggression. At this time, we only have the 1st American Regiment, barely 700 soldiers. These few men can hardly guard a border that stretches from Canada to the Carolinas, and without the protection of the British Navy, the Barbary pirates are destroying our merchant trade. Those who favor a strong central government say state politics must not influence our military operations. If soldiers from state militias are required to serve in the regular army, we can't trust that they will remain neutral. Some states may not fulfill their obligation. We need a neutral, fairly paid army with a clear line of command. To keep morale high and loyalties uncompromised, the forces must be under the control of the Congress. Therefore, proponents of this view argue that the new Constitution should give Congress the authority to create and fund a regular army and navy. The commanders-in-chief of both forces should report to the Congress, not to a single executive authority.
Put our financial affairs in order. When we were colonies, we relied on French, Spanish, and British currency. States and eventually the Continental Congress then began issuing paper money. These continentals were supposed to be backed by revenue from taxes, but that never happened. Now we say not worth a continental to mean something is worthless. Due to the shortage of coins, which are the most dependable currency, a complicated system has emerged. Along with paper money and coins, we have personal notes and barter systems. It's difficult to figure out how much something is really worth. In this view, we need a single national currency, and states and other entities should be prohibited from issuing their own currencies. Additionally, to have a second economy, or a sound economy, Congress should have the right to raise funds by taxation to pay the war debt and other governing expenses, including supporting a standing army. This money should be used to pay all war debts incurred by the states and the central government. Allowing the Congress to raise funds directly is the most efficient approach.
Build a common identity. Our national character is marked by civic virtue and a common commitment to the principles of our Declaration of Independence. We are willing to set aside self-interest for the public good. We have left aristocratic regimes like those of the British Empire behind to create a new way of life. Excellence arises from virtuous behavior, not bloodlines. Our leaders owe their authority to the people. This unique American identity draws on our shared history of patriotism. Those who call for a strong central government say we need to collectively celebrate our new republic by establishing common holidays and a national anthem to mark our independence and honor our veterans. This will bring us together and send a clear message to other nations about what the United States of America stands for.
What we could do. That's right, what could we do? Here is a summary of what the option says ought to be done in order to form a new constitutional government more powerful than the one we have now.
1. Abolish the Articles of Confederation. Create a new federal constitution and a representative legislature that is proportional to each state's population, with slaves being counted at 3/5.
Number 2, allow the new Congress to appoint an executive for a 7-year term.
Number 3. Establish nationwide standards for citizenship and voting rights.
Number 4, give Congress the authority to create and direct a regular Army and Navy.
Number 5. Give Congress the right to levy tariffs to pay our war debts, including the debts owed by the states. Establish a single national currency and prohibit states and other entities from issuing their own currencies.
And number 6, celebrate our identity. I said celebrate our identity by establishing national holidays and a national anthem.